بسم الله وبه بدينا ولا عبد نظر الموفقين تحبذ ربك بدينا اللهم صل على محمد كلما ذكر ذاك اللهم صل على محمد كلما قبل ذكر الغافرة. Yesterday we discussed the journey of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Baytul Muqaddas. So it's perhaps appropriate that I mention the very sad date today in Islam's history, that this is the 50th anniversary that we have lost Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to the Jews. Many people are not even aware of this, but the Jews are celebrating this 50th anniversary. But let us take hope in this one fact, that the first time we lost this to the Crusaders, it was almost a century before Allah sent the liberator Salahuddin Ayyubi. So we've got about another 40 years odd to match that time period. Allah free Masjid Aqsa, but more importantly, Allah put us on the path of righteousness, making us worthy of receiving Allah's assistance. So Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam was facing increasing danger in Makkah Mukarramah. Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned his attention to the people of Ṭāʿif. There was no immediate success. So Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam now turned his attention more fully towards other tribes. Other tribes, of course, came to Makkah whether for purpose of businesses or, more importantly, for their pilgrimage. However corrupt it might have been, but they came to Makkah for their pilgrimage. Again, for practical reasons, Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam first turned towards the bigger, more important tribes. Obviously, the more people that we brought towards Hidayah, towards Allah, the better. So, amongst the first tribes was the Banū Ḥanīfah, and Banū Ḥanīfah rejected Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and in fact, it became a bit of a problem tribe later on in the history of Islam, because that is the tribe that produced Musaylama al-Kadhab, the great liar, the false prophet towards the end of the life of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam upon earth. Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned to Banū Shaybah. Banū Shaybah was also not interested. Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for each of his tribes, Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the message, and Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam also made it clear to them, because they were important tribes and they administered regions, that those that are going to accept Islam, the time will be coming when we will be conquering the great powers of Persia. Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam made these promises at a time when Islam was nothing. Islam didn't rule anything. Muslims were being oppressed, tortured, killed, and Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam was making these grand promises of conquest of the neighboring empires. But there's also not so much only a promise, but there's also a test of Iman, because if the Muslims had been a powerful force, and Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam promised something which was on a materialistic level, on a worldly level possible, then there's no test of Iman. But at that stage you believe Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam when Islam is nothing, and at that stage the promise is coming that we will conquer these empires, then and you believe in Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam at that time, then that proves your Iman. So some people are very politically minded. The Kindah tribe, they had also ruled many regions, and they also considered themselves royal. Other tribes would call it Banū this, Banū that. Kindah al-Muluk, royal Kindah. So they said, okay, we'll accept Islam, but we want to be the leaders and we want to be royalty, and that was not part of the deal. You accept Islam and you obey Allah, not Allah obeys you. So Kindah also lost a chance for early entry into Islam. And then who finally got the great honor of being the first entrance into Islam. To the north of Makkah was a city at that time called Yathrib. It had in fact been built by the Jews. By the Jews, it said in the time of Musa alayhi salam already some of the Jews had separated for looking at the signs of where the final Nabi will come, and they located the spot and they built their city there with a said purpose, specific purpose of waiting for Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam to come, and they called the city Yathrib. Later on, migrants from Yemen, they also joined, settled there after the Jews. So the city Yathrib was a mixed Arab-Jewish city. So the Arabs of Yathrib, they were idol worshippers, but they had close contact obviously with the Jews, so they knew of this Nabi that's coming. So when Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam came across them and they heard about this message, they told each other that this must be the Nabi that the Jews were speaking about, and let us rush now to be the first to accept this truth. So they were from the Khazraj tribe of Yathrib, which we call, of course, today Medina, Medina to Rasul, Medina to Nabi, the city of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they accepted Islam. They accepted Islam and they went back to tell the people that we have discovered this Nabi. So the next year they returned, and this time there was more, and they took what is known as the first oath of ʿAqabah, a very significant point now in the turning in the history of Islam. And they pledged themselves to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam on dini matters. The next year after that, this is now 3 years now in succession of meeting with Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's called the second oath of ʿAqabah. And this was now from both tribes of both Arab tribes of Medina, the Aws and the Khazraj. There were 70 odd, and they pledged themselves to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this time on a dini level and on a political level, that they would obey Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would defend Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam if he is attacked in the borders of Medina Munawwara. But already at this point they were so filled with love and anxiety of not being separated with Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. From their side they stipulated a condition. They said that we don't want Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam ever to leave us. Come to us, but don't ever leave us. It's also important to know that when Allah indicated to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam that Hijrah was going to happen, Medina was not yet stipulated. Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw signs as he was going to make Hijrah, but it wasn't yet specified that it was going to be Medina. But now finally, in the end now, became clear it's going to be Medina. And regarding the building of Medina also, we look at these people of the Banū Israel who built this city with a set purpose of waiting for Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And how sad it is that when the time finally came when Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam appeared in this world and was going to make his hijrah, it was the very people, their descendants, the Jews, who were going to reject Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and other people who accepted Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. History books also mention a very interesting fact about these people, that at the same time when Yathrib had just been built, the Tubba, the emperor of Yemen, he was going on a course of conquest, and he was conquering Arabia. And then when he reached Yathrib, he laid siege to Yathrib, and these, the believers of the time, Banū Israel, they defended Yathrib against the Emperor of Yemen and his armies. Yet at night, when the armies withdrew, then the Israeli people, they used to come out and tend to the wounded of the Yemeni army, although they're enemies. And the Yemeni emperor, the Tubba, he was very astounded at this, and he asked them, what kind of people you are? So they said, no, we've got no worldly motive. We have come here with this reason. We are waiting for Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the emperor was so impressed that he ceased hostilities, and beyond that, he also brought iman upon Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so much knowledge did the ulama Bani Israel have, they pinpointed the very spot. They said that here Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be resting. And so the emperor had a house constructed there on behalf of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he wrote a poem conveying his greetings and his belief in Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, centuries would pass, the house would be maintained, built, renovated. It lasted through centuries, passed on, with the message of the Tubba. Eventually, this house came into the possession of a man of Medina, Abu Ayyub al-Ansari, a distant cousin of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after the hijrah, that was his resting place where Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam stayed for a while. And the poem Salam from centuries back from the Tubba was read to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that poem can still be found today in the history books. But how Allah treats us, that if we want to convey salam to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we just have to utter it, and the angels will immediately convey it to Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So tomorrow, inshallah, we will discuss the hijrah of Rasūlullāh sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his new abode in Medina Munawwarah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi.